And we are live on the PHU Dynasty podcast. This is episode 86, back from a short break, and we are here today to talk a little bit about the league, a little bit less about the NFL. We're going to talk more about the PHU Dynasty League because we have an NFL-filled podcast next week with the great Charlie Campbell. So this week we're going to try to break down the teams, team needs. Sean has his anticipated power rankings that he's going to release.
Stir the pot.
I've had a preview, and I will say I feel like there will be some controversial things. It's pot stirring hour, in the words of the great Alex Morales. So I think we'll have a good episode here. Is there any news that we over the last we talked a little bit about free agency. Is there anything that's happened over the last 2-3 weeks that's been like totally mind blowing? They're still waiting on the Aaron Rodgers thing. I guess the DK Metcalf was before. I'm not sure if we touched on that at all. But yeah,
I don't think so. The only thing that really got me going was those rumors about Dak getting traded. But
yeah, those turned out to be a load of bullshit. But I'm kind of hoping that they're like backburnery, like, oh, this could still maybe happen, and then like they were just trying to poo-poo it. Like it would be that, like if that happened on draft day, that shit would be awesome. Like people would lose their brains.
If Shedeur is there at 12,
dude, like if Shedeur's there at 12 and Jerry is truly just like F it, that would be the greatest thing ever from a draft. Like so many party poppers. So many. I already bought some ahead of time and I had them shipped to Florida so that we could blow them off. But I think we might need the industrial party poppers. It's gonna be wild. So I'm looking forward to a great draft season. I guess we should talk a little bit about the draft on this podcast. It would be hard to just not talk about it at all. Actually, we can maybe even do a little bit of a preview here. If I pull up, this is completely on the fly. I'll pull up the Walter Football website and I'll pull up some of Charlie's most recent stuff and we can maybe talk about that.
Did you see who he had the Chiefs taking at 31?
I did not. No.
I only read the first 16 last night, and then I looked at the next half of the first round and I was like, oh,
I'm scared. Well, you should tell me.
Elijah Arroyo.
I don't know about that one.
I
like Elijah Arroyo, but I'm not sure I'm all in on the first round Elijah Arroyo. Heat. Frankly, like Andy Reid would be a great fit for him. He's just like he's Evan Ingram to me. Like he's a move tight end. He can't block, and you just got to hope that he can be that, like he's basically just like a big slot receiver, which is cool. I just don't know if I could get totally on board with that in the first round, especially because he's been injured so much.
Yeah, if you're doing that, I would just trade down.
Yeah, like to me at that point, why not go down? I feel like they'll be in a prime spot. Like if there's maybe a world where Shedeur makes it down that far, or maybe one of the quarterbacks like a Jackson Dart.
Yeah, somebody
want to come up.
Yeah, get that 5th-year rookie option for Dart or something.
That's basically what happened with Bridgewater. Oh, Tyler Shuck shot. I don't have enough party poppers for all this. I don't. I got to get more.
I think he'd be 31 by the time he hit his 5th-year option.
That's actually accurate, which is insanity to even think about. I think we were joking earlier when we were texting that he is, I think, 6 years older than Braylon Allen is, which is another.
Yeah. I messaged you earlier. And I was like, he is older than 11 starters in the NFL right now.
The dude is basically Brandon Weeden part 2. Like that's what he is. Like he's the same prospect, same age. I don't think another team would be stupid enough to take him in the first round, but I've been wrong before. So that would be exciting if that happened. And once again, wouldn't have enough party poppers. So Charlie released a big board. So once again, Charlie's big board is what he thinks of the prospects, not what the teams think. So this will give us a good idea. Yeah, exactly. So he's got Abdul Carter 1, Travis Hunter 2. So this has been an interesting one because there's been more. I feel like there's been a little bit, like at least on the podcast I listen to and whatnot, there's been a little bit more of a, I would say, not a revival, but like people like realizing that there is a real chance that he could just be a wide receiver only, or like at least a majority of wide receiver. Like if he ends up on the Patriots, for example, like are they really going to use him at corner that much? Maybe as a nickel corner?
I think it's like a mix of like wish casting and like he's so easily the wide receiver one out of this class if he's only a wide receiver that that's kind of like pushing a narrative. I think
Yeah.
if every time he's talked about, he's like, I'm playing both.
I mean, I expect him to play both no matter what. It's just a matter of like what's the
And if
divvy gonna be.
if he ends up, I think the betting odds favor is that he's on the Giants. That is the place where he plays both to me the most effectively because he doesn't have to be the wide receiver one,
No.
and he doesn't. He should be the CB one on that team if he's there. He'd be the best corner day one, but he doesn't necessarily have to be with some of the moves they've made. So he can really freelance a mix of both, and I think it would be a benefit on both sides of the ball for them, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, it's
So
basically filling two needs with one. It's I mean, and two big needs too that they have. I mean, I've had more time to go back and watch Hunter at receiver, which I feel like a lot of the times I just ended up watching him at corner, and I just forgot how good he is. Like at receiver, he is clear and away the best receiver in this draft.
yep.
So it's not only is he so good at with his ball skills in his hands, but he can actually run routes. He can actually do things that you would like at a like OBJ level. And even I'm not a big Matt Harmon like follower or whatever, but I looked at his. I think he released his reception perception chart. It was literally the whole thing was green. It was insanity. Like he kills man coverage. He kills.
He doesn't even
coverage.
run a dynamic like route tree.
No, he doesn't even have to.
He was moonlighting as a receiver in college for the most part. Like he spent his practices as a CB. He didn't play wide receiver in practice.
Like imagine if you actually like trained him like the right
It's
way.
insane how good he was.
He's going to be an interesting case study for our rookie draft because, like, I feel like to me like if you take it's him and Genty, like they're the two best.
So I was about to ask you is if you just take away he will not play corner in the NFL. Who's the 101 for you?
I mean, it's still Genty, but it's not far off anymore.
If you're a team, particularly like when I rejoined the league and I traded away the 101 that ended up being Barkley that year, and I went with receiver heavy draft because like I wasn't going to be competing, so why take a guy with a 5-year to 6-year shelf life as opposed to like a longer. That was my mentality coming in. Like in that year I probably would have taken Hunter if he was just a receiver 101.
Yeah, I mean, if you just look at like, well, he's another one. Like if he does, obviously this scenario that you're giving to me, like he's not playing corner, but like his longevity is a bit of an something to think about if he is playing both ways. But if you're telling me he's just a receiver, and we've barely scratched the surface, and you're looking for longevity at just in general in Dynasty, like I think it'd be hard. I mean, to me, there'd just be 1A, 1B, and you just take whichever one you want.
Yeah. And this is all fun and hypothetical, obviously, but like you compare that and then to like a guy like Genty who is insane. He's amazing, but like as a guy that has had a ton of work already as a college athlete, like coming to the NFL, where like he had 400 plus attempts last year in college. That's
dude, he was Boise State.
Yeah,
like there's just nothing else to say. Like I don't know. It's scary because like I mean, here's a perfect example. I'm at 1-2. And I'm just thinking, like, it's really, to me at this point, and just being completely honest with the league, it's basically between Hunter and Hampton. Like, that's kind of where I'm at this point. Unless, like, some crazy shit happens with landing spots where, there's just a stupid landing spot that you can't, like, look past, and maybe one of the other backs come up the board. Like, that could happen, I guess. But just from a talent standpoint, I mean, to me, Hunter is the best player in the class overall. And I think Abdul Carter second, probably Genty third. So, like,
I can give you a little mock question real quick, not counting Hunter. If you're leaning Hampton, like Hunter comes in, he says he's primarily a corner, so he just kind of falls down the board a little bit, right? Hampton goes to what team? I just had it in my head. He goes to a team
or something.
Yeah, committee, perfect. Him and Najee Harris in the backfield, where Najee's going to get some work, and one of the Ohio State guys goes to Chicago.
Yeah, see that's a tough one. It, also too because I have a lot of Chicago investments, so now this is where it becomes interesting.
Yeah.
It's like how many people like like I think I have to consider not taking the Chicago player, but now I'm also like, oh shit, like Hunter's getting 50% of the snaps on offense or something, and it's probably one of the weirdest like rookie draft decisions that somebody's going to have to make it. If it's not me, it's somebody else.
Mhm.
It's going to be an interesting case study. I'm really fascinated, and you bet your butt, like I'm going to be scouring whatever team he ends up landing on, whatever press conference. I might fly to the press conference to find out if he's going to play receiver.
You're a
Because
free man. You can do whatever you
I
want.
mean, I could literally just go straight there, and I'll sit right in front of Mike Vrabel if he goes to the Patriots, and I'm going to ask him the hard questions. Is this man playing wide receiver? Because I have a dynasty 1-2, and I need to know. It's that
And
simple. It's my money, and I need it now, Sean.
Vrabel's going to tell you to get the fuck out of there.
He's like, "What are you doing here, sir?
Who are you?
Please exit. Please escort this man out of the building." Dude, it's a tough one, but like the more I watch, like I still love Hampton. I still think he is clearly the best, second best running back in this class. I don't think his game is without holes. Like that's the thing. Like
Sure.
to me, he's on par as a prospect to where like Jonathan Taylor was, which he was taken high in the second, but that's where I truly believe he belongs in like the NFL draft. Like I don't feel good. Like I've seen a lot of mocks with him going like 12 to the Cowboys and like in the top 20. I just don't feel that great about Hampton in the top 20 because I still think he has some vision things to work on. He ends up running into his blockers a lot that he just doesn't need to do that.
The problem with that is like there's realistically like there's probably like maybe 12 absolute lock first round talents in this draft.
Yeah, that's where it gets challenging.
Like after that, there's probably like 30 to 40 guys that are like a late 1, early 2 kind of like.
Yeah. I think somebody
like
said
you literally
there's like Daniel Jeremiah said like 16 first round talents basically.
Yeah, I saw it. I was looking at Charlie's mock today, and he had Derek Harmon in like the 50s, and I was like, "Holy shit!" I would take Derek Harmon in the mid first.
I mean, yeah, like I've seen him a lot going at like 16, 17, which is, I mean, I think this is going to be a year where we see guys that were, some people had ranked in the 60s and the 40s and the 50s end up going at like 21, and we're just like, what the hell? Like this is so off the radar. Like a Donovan Jackson at interior offensive line. Just like
he's got Kelvin Banks going 5, and I've seen some people say like, hell no, he's not even a first round.
I've seen 31. I've seen it all. Like it's. I think that's why like for me as a draft fan, I'm excited just because like literally I think once we get past basically 3, it's just going to be all hell breaks loose. Like anything could happen. And I don't remember it being like that. Like, I feel like most drafts recently, we've at least had like the top 5, 6 kind of figured out ahead of time. Like, I don't think anybody knows anything at this point.
And honestly, it's only been like this week that like 1, 2, and 3 have felt super solid. Like I would be shocked if anything like happened other than Ward, Carter, and Hunter.
I mean, to me, the only wild card really in the top 3 is just Sanders if he ends up going in the top 3 somehow. But I mean, like I said, I don't like it. I mean, to me, he's a Geno Smith, Teddy Bridgewater type of guy, and I wouldn't take that at 3 or 2. I would rather wait a little while. But some teams don't have that luxury, so we'll see. Anyway, going back to Charlie's big board, he's got Genty 3, McMillan 4. So he's very high on McMillan, which I will ask him next week about because I would like to know just more about how the teams view him, about his comments about not liking to watch film. Sean, don't really love that. So I'm kind of curious to see what he thinks. He's also got Will Johnson at 5, Nick Iwanmori at 6.
Whoa,
I haven't seen that. Tyler Booker at 7. He loves Tyler. I like Tyler Booker too.
Tyler Booker is going in the first round, and I think.
Oh, there's no doubt about it.
A lot of like draft like media, like I've not seen him lately in the first round after the combine. He's going in the first round for sure.
I think any power scheme that's not like a zone running scheme, they're gonna want him. Like I could absolutely see like the Colts taking him at 14, no
Oh yeah,
question, or like
yep.
or maybe even like Seattle or one of those teams. Like just a team that's not running zone is gonna take him. Kenny Grant at 8. That's a pretty high. I haven't seen him that high.
I do love Kenneth Grant. I think he's got the
He
highest.
is a fun player.
Yeah.
And you know what? I actually saw a couple mocks where the Bucks take him at 19, and I'm like, that's kind of fun.
19.
That's kind of fun though.
I think if he's at 11, I think
just replace Logan Hall with him and just have the greatest like front three known to man, basically. Like that'd be such a. Imagine the size. You got to stop Vita Vea, Kenny Grant, and Kalijah Cansey, dude. That sucks. That's no fun.
Absolutely won't do that. I really think if he's there, the Niners are taking Grant 11.
That would be. I mean, it's a logical pick. Like that's. So let me look at some of these other position players more for the Dynasty League. So we got Luther Burden at 14. So that's his second ranked receiver behind McMillan. And then, well, I guess if you put Hunter in there, 3. Let's see, coming down the list, he's got Ekbuga at 18. Shadur Sanders at 19, for what it's worth.
Yeah, I still surprised.
Quinshawn Judkins at 24.
I don't hate
Hampton.
It. I hate that.
I kind of hate that. I'm gonna have to ask him about that one. That's a tough one.
I wonder if he's like leaning more on the 2023 tape. Because he was a fucking crazy person at Ole Miss.
No, he was a hog. Yeah, he was crushing people. I have a hard time with him. Like I go back and forth with him because there's moments where I'm like, oh yeah, I can see it. And then there are other times where I'm just like, he's just not going to make people miss. He's just like a bigger version of like a Blake Corum where you're going to get your 5 yards, 4 yards or whatever from last year. Like that might work.
I think he's more of an athlete than that. But
he's more of an athlete for sure. I'm just saying that like you don't see him make people miss often on tape. It's more of like, I'm going to try to run through you and maybe get you to bring an arm tackle. He's more of a Mixon type, which is fine. Like Mixon isn't a
pre-injury Pacheco, like just without.
Yeah, like he's going to make moves, but not make people miss, if that makes sense. Like it's just a lot of feet moving and nothing's happening. Like that's not a bad thing. Like he averaged, 4.3 yards per carry in 2023, and then this year he was up to almost 6 yards per carry, 1,500 yards and 16 touchdowns. So it's not to say like he's a bad runner, but in the first round over Hampton, I'm not so sure I love that. Then he's got 3 tight ends back to back to back. He's got Tyler Warren 26, Elijah Arroyo 27, Poston Loveland 28.
Oh, he hates Michigan.
I guess he's just out on Michigan.
Doesn't hate Michigan. He's got
Kenneth Grant's at 8. Yeah, I don't know about that. And then Omarion Hampton at 29, right behind those 3. So if you're a Colston Loveland fan, he's got him behind Arroyo, which is wild. And once again, this is Charlie's this is who he likes. Yeah, I've seen it a lot actually where he's tight end 1. I just still think Warren is just so solid, dude. I love Warren. Let's keep moving down the list here. Some other position players. It looks like next is Alec Iomanner. Where is Matt Golden? Am I blind?
I don't think so. I think he had him pretty low.
Is he way low?
He had him as a second rounder in his mock.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna have to do a good old Control F here.
Iomanner, that's high. He's
Sean, there is no Matt Golden in this. Maybe he just forgot him.
In his top what? 50?
Top 130?
Holy shit.
That can't. Something's wrong here. There's no way. There's just no way.
He hates the best route runner in the draft.
I might have to send him a text. Be like, hey, I don't know. I don't know if you forgot about this, but Matt Golden might not be in your top, whatever. Let me type in Golden just to try it again. I got nothing, dude. All right, this is not good. Who's next? So Alec Iomanner. I don't see any other. This is Mason Taylor at 42. I like Mason Taylor too. I'm a fan.
Yeah, the league they like prodigies. So
he's pretty. Yes,
he'll go high.
He's much lower on Josh Connerly than I've been hearing recently. At 52. Then we got Travion Henderson and Caleb Johnson at 54, 56, followed closely by Savion Williams over Jaden Higgins. Atlanta. This
That guy
is getting,
sucks.
who's that? Oh, Savion.
Yeah.
So you're a hater. I mean,
He's
it's pretty
he's a
easy when he's a
freak
TCU
athlete.
receiver
Yeah.
that basically
That's
is Cordero Patterson part 2.
Malachi Corley this year, right there.
Dude, you know who stinks? Malachi Corley.
Sorry, Dustin.
Dude, we've been talking crap about him for a while, but yeah, he has. I mean, he might never play. Like, I don't know. He's just not good. Then we got 2 quarterbacks at 65 and 66 is Dart and Milrow. He's got Walter Nolan at 68. Derek Harmon at 72.
Jesus.
I mean, this is interesting stuff.
Where all of his? I know you were only going their skill positions, but like, damn, how many defensive tackles does he have above them? That's crazy.
I would have to do some investigative research that we don't have time for, unfortunately, but we can do some fun. Wait a second. Mitchell Evans at 87. Okay. That's something I wanted to talk about. Bad tight ends that get drafted in the second round. It happens every year, Sean. Drew Sample, Adam Shaheen. It happens every year. Who's going to be the bad second round tight end that gets overdrafted? Mitchell Evans seems like the guy right now.
Harold Fannin?
No way. You think he's bad?
I don't think he's bad. I just don't think he's 1,500 yard. Like, you're not getting what his stats were last year. He's undersized. He's not going to be a blocker. He's not a tight end. He's like I don't even know.
He's a joker. He's a joker.
Yeah.
So Charlie has his prospect profile on him and has him compared to Janu Smith, which I think is not terrible. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't know. I like when I think of like mega busts in the second round. Harold Fannin just kind of doesn't come to mind.
I don't know. How do you feel about Gunnar Helm?
I think that could be a mega bust.
Yeah.
In the second.
I love the not saying anything about rolling your ankle and just doing the combine through
I do love that. I love the hustle. I appreciate the hustle. Anybody that does that, like when was it Julio Jones like had a bum ankle or something, or like had the longest vertical or longest broad jump in history with like not even his own shoes, like that kind of shit is like insane. Like I love that.
James Pierce running the 40 in a hoodie. Love that.
Yes, I like that. Tyler Shuck at 94. Finally somebody that understands that's where he's appropriately valued.
Might still be high.
I know, I might be too much for me. Like, I would still take Kyle McCord number 3 in this class, and he's got him at 102. It's going to be an interesting class because I like all the running backs that he's got. Like, he's got guys all the way at the bottom of this. At 128, he's got like Damian Martinez. I mean, it's like that's 4th round player in this draft, so pretty wild. Anywho, let's get to what the meat and potatoes of this episode is, and that is going to be Sean's power rankings. So basically, so Sean has sent me essentially a spreadsheet of all the teams, and he's doing it in a way that's it's laying out all the different teams' position groups, where they rank in his eyes, and he uses a bit of I would call it a color coding system to kind of not project.
I threw this together in like an hour.
Now that we're not going to make excuses already. We just got here, so let's take a look and see, and maybe I'll. I haven't really dove at all deep in this, so I'm kind of excited to look at this myself to see where kind of these guys land. So Sean, maybe explain the colors here because it's very pretty to look at. But I want to know more.
It's like blue. We'll go with
So is that blue chip?
So blue is like elite players, whether it's like the top half of like, so the top 5 quarterbacks, the top half, or the guys that are just a positional advantage. Running backs and receivers, I did like the top 10-ish. I think there's 11 receivers on there because it was really hard to make a cut of those 11 guys. And so on and so forth. Like tight ends, there's really only 3 guys to me that are positional advantages at this point. So I only put 3 for tight ends.
I think that's fair. So then what are the greens then?
Green are going to be like your quality starter, your wide receiver 2s, your RB2s, your guys that you're going to feel good about if they're in your starting lineup. And then white is just kind of like fill-ins, bench players. Red is probably not going to be on a roster.
Candidate? Yeah.
Like you're never going to start these guys most likely.
Are you trying to tell me I'm not going to start Taj Washington?
Probably. So I'm telling you, would you look at that? Malachi Corley is red. Oh no.
Oh no, he's just getting all the strays today. Hey, you know what? The Lions have Michael Woods. I like Michael Woods. I don't think he's ever going to do anything, but I like the kid.
Is that on the Browns?
He is on the Browns. I was a big fan of him coming out a couple years
Mm.
ago. He's in that Tyler Johnson category for me. Just
Mm.
guy that I like that has absolutely no chance of doing anything. So anywho, so let's start with the quarterbacks.
Sure.
I think that would be a good place to start. So if you look at the rankings on the bottom, he's got the battle axes at number 1 with 1 blue chip player in Jaden Daniels and 3 would you call them high end starters? Is that fair?
Like if you're starting them, you feel good that they're going to be like in that like 6 to 12 QB range on like a weekly basis. Most
Okay.
likely not the elite guys, but like you feel pretty good if they're starting.
Gotcha. So we got Bo Nix, Justin Fields, Baker Mayfield, and Rodgers not making the cut for that top 12, if you will. So I think it's pretty amazing what Scavelli has done with this quarterback room. Literally last year, before the hot tub trade machine, we were ragging on this quarterback room, saying I don't know how it's going to work, and he basically has turned it around. Literally in you'd argue maybe 24 hours of that draft and that trade happening. The Jaden Daniels pick hits very hard, and then we got 3 quality starters, all very either in their prime or young. Really, really great mix of players. I don't think there's much to argue with that being the number 1 position group. Going to number 2, it's going to be you. I could argue putting Jared Goff in that green category. I mean, no Ben Johnson could maybe.
That might have been a labeling error on my part, potentially with May instead of Goff. That might have happened. I don't know, but
I would feel better about starting Goff at the current state.
Yeah, I feel good about May just from the rushing upside. So like, it's more of a projection. I wasn't trying to do a ton of projecting into this year, like not like crazy swings of like going from like QB 20 to like QB 5 or something, like nothing insane. Like, but yeah, for sure, Goff could definitely be in that green category. It'll be an interesting one because of all the turnover and stuff from the coaching staff. But
yeah, I'm curious to see how that offense looks just with a different guy running the show, because I have a good feeling that it's not going to be Dan doing a ton of the influencing on the offensive game plan. I feel like it's going to be he's going to let his guys cook, if you will, and kind of just be that ambassador for the team as like he usually has. Just quickly, I love Drake May. I'm in on Drake May. I think he will take a jump. I think having Diggs hopefully back healthy. I assume they're going to add some other players in the draft to
a couple of tackles would be nice.
Any tackle at left tackle would be great. That'd be an awesome start. But I can't imagine this is going to be even close to as bad of a situation as it was last year for him. So I'm looking forward to Drake May this year. He's one of the guys that I have circled. I have for Galactic. I actually was trying to trade for, or not in Galactic, another league where it's a 2 QB league, and I was trying to trade for him. I have 1-2 in that league. I was going to just trade him 1-2 straight up because I'd rather have him than Cam Ward for sure.
And yeah, that'd be great value in that league.
I know. I don't know if I could pull it off, but that was a thought I had. It's like, well, as cool as it is to have the 1-2, I think I'd rather have Drake May in a 2 QB league. So, anywho, let's go to 3. It's going to be the Armadillos. Yours truly. Jalen Hurts is very good. He runs the ball a lot. Seems like the tush push is sticking around as far as I can tell. I haven't been following along too much.
Tabled until the next owners meeting.
So basically another year. So I'm on. So basically 10 rushing touchdowns again, at least, probably for Jalen Hurts. So I feel good about that.
Yeah, you could talk about those other 2 guys potentially being in that green category too. Purdy's had a year where he's been, I think, QB 10, 9 maybe, somewhere in there. So like he obviously could be there.
Close. I'm just a little concerned about that team as a whole.
Yeah, same. And then Caleb Williams, I kind of just want to see it first.
I'm with you. Like, I'm not sitting here. I'm not going to go like, oh, Caleb Williams top 10. Like let's start drafting him and redraft in the top 10 rounds. Like I'm not there yet, but I feel good about it. Like I don't know how you could feel worse about it based on last year. So everything got better around him. And I still think they're going to add I think they're going to add at least one or two more weapons in this draft, whether it be a running back, maybe another receiver, like a speedy receiver or something like that. I could see more help on the way for Caleb Williams.
Yep.
Then let's go to 4. We got the plague with Josh Allen. I thought you might have been able to argue him over me here, obviously with Josh Allen being the number one quarterback.
The tiebreaker was the backup quarterbacks just being more fantasy relevant. If we're being honest, like those top 5 guys, like maybe outside of Burrow, probably solidified as the 5th out of those 5 for me, just because of the rushing that you get from the other ones. But I think the biggest difference is just going to be like the other guys after them.
Yeah, I mean Stafford, at this point in his career, I don't think he's going to be lighting up any top 5s or anything. But
yeah, if we're ranking actual NFL play, like
sure,
insane,
he's up there. Yeah, he's up there.
He's never really been super relevant as a fantasy quarterback. Maybe like 1 or 2 years.
He's just a good real life quarterback. It's just that simple. Like he gets the job done. If he is healthy or if he is hurt, like he's going to try to play through it. Like he's just like one of those gamers that everybody likes. And Sam Darnold in the new situation, it's another wait and see guy for me. I'd like to kind of see what that looks like in Seattle. And then frankly, I think Daniel Jones is going to start in Indy. So
yeah, that was definitely like, that'll be interesting. I don't know how else to I have no idea what's going to happen there.
I'll put it this way. If I was Chris Ballard and I'm basically like on the hot seat, like I don't like this situation. Like I don't like having my job on the line with Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson. It doesn't feel good. I'll say that. Let's go to number 5. We got the Bombers, Joe Burrow, Jordan Love, Tua Tagovailoa, which is a great trio for me. I don't feel I feel like you could really interchange any of these. The last 3 through 5 here, just based on the top end talent. But I do like Jordan Love. I thought he took a step back last year based on expectations, and then Tua, of course, with all of his injuries. He's a good 3 though. Like this is just like a good solid room, and I don't think there's a whole lot more that you really need to do here. You don't have to go find a 3rd guy or anything. You can kind of just let the draft come to you. Don't have to force anything. Number 6, we have the Lionheads, which is a fun one.
This is the teardrop out of those elite guys. Like, frankly, unless there was like literally nobody backing them up, they were going to command the top 5 spots just because of the starters. So like starting now is just a drop off to me.
And I'll wait until we get to one of our other slides here with the actual power rankings that everybody's so jonesing for. So you can explain your thought process there as far as like the weighting of these top quarterbacks. So
yeah, I'm sure everybody will love my decision on that.
And he's got some hot takes here. We got Sean Kuiper coming off the top rope here in a minute. So keep your seatbelts fastened. Let's go to 7. We got actually we probably should go back to the Lionheads here for a second. Kyler Murray. I just don't think he's in that tier anymore of like kind of that, top 6, 5-ish range, like he kind of once was. I think there's still room for him to get back there. As the team is getting better around him. Another year with Marvin Harrison. I would imagine they had some sort of receiving help as a 3rd or 2nd receiver with Wilson. McBride is still there. Their offensive line is getting better. Like there's still a way that he could get back into that top tier. I just don't feel very confident in it. We'll put it that way. Like I've seen a lot of Kyler Murray and I've yet to be like blown away. We'll put it that way. Michael Penix is a bit of a wild card. Looked really nice in specific spots last year. I think there's a world where he could be a very good quarterback, but maybe for fantasy, he's not much of a runner. So that kind of knocks him down a little bit for me personally, but from a throwing aspect, he's got a great arm. Everybody knows it. He's got a great deep ball. He should be relevant in some way in fantasy. It just might not be that top 6, 7 ever guy really, unless he's really cooking with his arm. And these other 2 guys, we got Kirk Cousins, who is a bit of a wild card right now because he's not doing it much. Assume his Browns landing spot.
Yeah, my expectation is he's going to be the starter on the Browns next year.
And I would like that because I feel like he was playing hurt this past year and just didn't get a real fair shot towards the end of that season with his injuries.
I think he's been a top 10 quarterback in our scoring system in recent years. So it's there.
Yes, it's not out of the question. And then Bryce Young really had a great finish to last year. I mean, there's reason to believe that he can hop up in the rankings, and he does have some wheels, so he can motor a little bit if he needs to. But like this is a good QB room. Like this is a very solid QB room. You don't really have to worry about too much. I just don't think like you have if Cousins doesn't end up as a starter, then maybe there's some reason for concern because we have two young guys that maybe we're not as confident in, but it's a solid room. Solid room. Let's go to 7. We got the Muskrats with Mahomes, Geno Smith, Spencer Rattler, and Hendon Hooker, which I kind of forgot that Hendon Hooker was still on a 1 QB roster. So that's exciting. Didn't they sign another backup this year? The Lions?
Don't remember.
I thought they signed
Teddy Bridgewater at the end of last year, but
that could be okay. Maybe he's stuck around. Anywho, yeah, this is Mahomes and Smith basically. I'm calling it at this point. I don't love having 2 QBs. I feel like it's a risky game to play. One injury happens, a bye week happens. Now you got nothing.
Yep.
So I know Alex does not have draft picks this year, but maybe he's a candidate. As we're talking about team needs here, I would consider this to be somewhat of a need. Maybe with one of his 5, 6, 7 picks, you can sneak in one of those random, rookies, the Jackson Darts of the world or something like that, just to give yourself a chance, maybe even a lottery ticket to try to get a backup. But I don't feel too good about going into the season with 2 legitimate starters. And I don't know, Rattler versus Derek Carr. Rattler could end up being a starter for sure at some point this year.
If you're New Orleans, I would just play him. I don't. What do you?
I mean, they might. Yeah, I mean, they might just be like, screw it, just like let's just tank and just go all the way.
I thought Rattler looked good at times when he actually had like something that wasn't on the IR last year. Like I think he
had moments.
He had one of the starts against the Bucks last year, right?
Yeah, Bucks are really good about letting bad quarterbacks cook us.
Yeah.
We've done it every year, so
sure do.
So I'm just not a Rattler guy, but like he definitely had moments where there was like, oh, there's something there, which is better than most backups in the league. So and he's young, so it's like there's a reason to believe that there's some hope. What do you think about Mahomes this year? Because I know, for the past few years, it's kind of been, we've had him. I think the common thought is that he's in this elite group, but in fantasy, he really hasn't been there the last couple of years.
I think he's broken the benefit of the doubt at this point. Like, I think he's hitting a point where he's like, you're going to have to show me that you can be an elite guy again before I would ever rank you there.
Sure. Like, you basically think he's settled in to like QB, like 8, 7, 8-ish.
It's not going to shock me if he like torches the NFL any year because he's still one of the
he's great
football players on the planet. Like,
he's great.
He could use a tackle that has more than like 6 games of experience starting. Like that
line has not done him any favors recently.
I really hope that was just them overpaying for a swing tackle and they're still planning on taking a left tackle in the draft because I'd be really, really surprised if that was their answer after the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, like everybody saw that like their edge rushers were cooking those tackles all. I mean, basically it was the same thing as the Bucks here too. When the Bucks beat them in the Super Bowl, they just couldn't block for them. It was just not there was nothing there.
You're telling me you're signing the 3rd tackle off of the Niners roster who couldn't get on the field, and their offense is schemed around making their bad offensive line look not as bad outside of Trent Williams.
Right. Yeah.
I don't believe it. I'll have to see that one happen.
Sure. All right, let's keep this moving. Also, I want to say, I was kind of just briefly looking here at the blue chippers on these teams. There's only 2 teams that only have 1 blue chip player, and the Muskrats are one of them. I think there's been a couple of guys that, like Sam Laporta, that might have been a blue chipper heading into last season, who's no longer a blue chipper. So, for the Muskrats, do not have picks this year. So it's hard to imagine getting any blue chippers at this point. So I think we're just rolling with what we got here, Sean. This is basically it.
This is it.
And let's go to our number 8 team for quarterbacks. That's the Cheese Fries with Dak Prescott, Russell Wilson, and Anthony Richardson. This is definitely a team, I think, that has to at least be considering quarterback in the draft for our rookie draft.
Yeah, I mean, 8, 9, and 10 kind of is a tier of its own. I gave the edge to the Cheese Fries just because Dak has had an elite season.
Mm-hmm.
Fantasy wise, obviously Herbert has too, but like I think Dak still has the potential to do it. We'll see how he feels off the calf, but
yeah, I'm concerned about this room. I mean, if Russell Wilson obviously is with Jameis in New York, like maybe there's a world where Jameis is the guy, and then Russell Wilson's the backup, and then Anthony Richardson backs up Daniel Jones. We're back down to one quarterback, Sean, coming off an injury. So to me, this is a team that could at least it has to at least be considering other options at quarterback just to try to. We don't want to end up in a situation like we were in a couple of years ago or in this past year where we're just like starting randos at quarterback, the Joe Flacco's of the world, just trying to make things work. So, a team like his too, that's very much a contender. You don't want to have your season derailed at the quarterback position. I don't think so. So I think there's some moving parts there for sure. Then that 9, we have the Elk, which have C.J. Stroud, Trevor Lawrence, and the great Kyle Trask. That'd be a fun combination. Just literally one that runs all the time, one that stands there like a statue. Yeah, like C.J. Stroud and Lawrence, I like. I think there's room for both of them to get back into a tier where you feel good about them. This past year for CJ Stroud, I had him in Galactic. It was kind of just a big nothing, just like a big, okay, cool. Here's your 14 to 18 points and just walk away and it's okay. And then Trevor Lawrence, obviously got injured at times last year and it just hasn't quite hit that potential that we've, thought that he could hit. I think at least one of these guys has a good chance to bounce back.
Yeah, both going into the season with new offensive coordinators, Lawrence getting a new head coach calling the plays. If I'm picking between these two to a player that could move into like the green category, whatever, I would probably go with Lawrence just because I saw what a Cohen system did for Baker Mayfield. I frankly just think that Trevor Lawrence is a more talented quarterback than Baker Mayfield. But I don't think it's far off. I think traits wise, I think he just has a little more.
Traits wise for sure. Yeah, like he's got if you're looking at all the tools, I would argue
Baker has been a more successful quarterback in the NFL to this point in their careers, obviously. But I still think Lawrence has got a lot that he is a lot left on the bone as a quarterback in the NFL for sure.
Yeah, I out of the two, if you told me who was going to have the better season this next year, I might still go with Lawrence, even though we saw C.J. Stroud just wreck house as a rookie.
I just don't see the Texans giving up more than 18 points a game this year. That defense is going to be sick.
They're going to be great. My concern with the Texans is their line still stinks.
That too.
They got rid of Laramie Tunsil, who was the only guy that had a pulse on that line.
They got rid of the problems, Eric, in the locker room.
I mean, great, but now you have literally nobody to block. I mean, I'm a little concerned. Also, they need to get a second receiver. I mean, they really don't have.
Are you a big Christian Kirk fan?
No, I'm not. I think he's a fine slot guy, but I don't feel good about it just being the Nico show again.
You didn't like them restructuring his contract and adding void years when he came over?
I don't like that either, Sean. No, I don't like any of that stuff. So anywho, that's a tough one. Stroud versus Lawrence. You put in the comments. Let's get some engagement going on here. What do you think for next year? And then rounding out the quarterbacks, we have the Lambs at 10 with Derek Carr, Justin Herbert, and Will Levis. This has got to be a team thinking about quarterback in the draft. Obviously, James has lots of draft capital this year. I would imagine he'd be kind of the front runner for Cam Ward at this point. I'd argue it's basically him and the Cheese Fries
I
for
expect
Cam
heavy
Ward.
smoke screens from both sides on the
I love
quarterback.
I love a good smoke screen. I mean, this could be. I mean, James has got to get another quarterback at least with a pulse before the season starts, just in case. Well, in case basically whenever Jared Carr gets hurt, whenever that inevitably happens, Will Levis is very likely not going to play next year.
Yeah,
Then we're down to Justin Herbert.
if I'm Scavelli, the day that I see Aaron Rodgers sign with the Steelers, which feels inevitable at this point, like I'm putting out feelers to both of those teams about like Bo Nix.
Yeah, I mean, there's
If I'm
an
Scavelli, because I'm
embarrassment
trying
of
to,
riches for Scavelli
yeah,
for sure.
I'm trying to win right now. And I've got Daniels.
Yep.
I'm good.
Yeah,
You're not going to start anybody over him.
No, you keep Daniels and then maybe get rid of at least one of the other guys, and
Bo
then
Nix
keep
fits the
three.
Lamb's timeline. Like I think that makes too much sense.
I think James would be a Bo Nix guy. I could believe it. I don't think I've ever really talked to James about Bo Nix. Actually, now that I think about it, this is an interesting case study.
Surprising. That's a pretty common thing that comes up in conversation.
I don't know. I just
start talking about Bo Nix every once in a while.
And next time I see him, I'll just be like, "Hey, what do you think about Bo Nix?" Just randomly. We'll be talking about like taxes or whatever, and just be like, "Hey, what do you think about Bo Nix?" All right, let's go to the next position. We got the running backs, everybody's favorite in this league. It's funny if you look at this this chart. There's a lot of blue on the right side of the page here.
There is.
And we can start right up at the top with another number one ranking for the Battle Axes with Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, and Bucky Irving, a late addition into the fold last year. I mean, I don't think anybody saw what we saw coming from Bucky Irving. I mean, I like the guy. I had him, comp to Duke Johnson before the year as far as a 2-down runner. He basically did all that and more. I think, from a dynasty's perspective, like at the running back position, how many guys do you have above Bucky at this point? Like, because obviously, I think you're going to have Bijan, Gibbs, and like it probably A-Chain
not
somewhere
counting
in
the
there.
guys that are about to get drafted. Yeah, it's not a lot.
Yeah, it's not a lot. We'll put it that way. So I think for Scavelli in his window, just a phenomenal player to have because you do have the aging guys. So just truly like one of the better draft picks in recent memory for PHU dynasty purposes. So great job there for Scavelli. He's also got Tony Pollard, who you have a green on Tony Pollard. So it sounds like you're feeling pretty good about Tony Pollard next year.
I've loved everything they've done for the offensive line. I think that
They've
right
done
side
a lot,
of that line, the right side of that line is going to be nasty to run behind with Zeitler and Latham. So,
and they're going to run the shit out of the ball with Cam Ward if that's the case.
Yeah, 100%. A lot of play action. Pollard was good last year. He just wasn't like he outpaced his average draft position by a decent amount too. I think he's just in Tennessee. He's in purgatory, so nobody really talked about it. So
right, yeah. And then we also still have Aaron Jones on this roster, who will absolutely have his bell or his number called many times next year.
10 games are going to be sick.
It's going to be the finest 10 games you'll ever see. And then Brian Robinson, I think something could change with him in the draft in terms. I feel like the Commanders will be grabbing a running back at some point.
Redskins.
I almost did it. It's so hard. It's so hard. I still
go full.
I still want red tails. I'm still here for red tails. It just never happened.
Same.
Anywho, yeah, I think Brian Robinson's situation could change after the draft, but right now, there's no reason to believe that he's not gonna be the primary back there. So I don't think he's just gonna fade into obscurity either way. So
either way, I think Eckler cuts into the point where he's not like a locked and loaded. You feel good about him starting every week, but he'd
be a nice flex player where you can throw him in when you need to, kind of a guy. And then Jamal Williams is a cut candidate. No surprise there. Let's go to the number 2 team on this list for the running backs, which is going to be the Cheese Fries, who have 2 blue chippers of their own. Jahmyr Gibbs, Josh Jacobs, both had excellent seasons last year. Then we also have the 2 high-end starters, I guess you could call them, Breece Hall and James Conner. I think this is a great foursome of backs. I don't think anything's going to change too much with Conner's situation. I don't see a real threat from Trey Benson at this point. I kind of he's a I need to see it kind of
It's
guy.
on the team either way, so it doesn't. It's like for him, it doesn't.
Yeah, one way or another, he's going to have the starting back there likely, unless they go off the wall and take another back in this draft. Which I think they might take one like late, just as like a third back or something. But Breece Hall is an interesting talking point. There's been some talk recently, I guess, that's been popping up on Twitter and whatnot about a potential committee here. It's a weird one. I just feel like when
I like all three running backs on that roster. So
I do too. It's one of those classic like, oh, these guys are all pretty good. Like, what do we do with them all? Like, I mean, is Breece Hall a trade candidate?
I was just going to say, honestly, if he got traded, it wouldn't shock me. The only problem is that there are so many good running backs coming into the draft.
I know, like what are you gonna?
You can just get the guy that you want that's got less, doesn't have a torn ACL on his medical. Like,
I think 2. I think he tore one in college too. But like he's still 23. I think he's got one more year on his deal.
Yeah.
So like basically it's a 1-year rental if you're trading for him at this point, which there might be a team that would be willing to do it. But are you going to get the return where it's worth it to trade him? I'm not really sure.
And kind of up in the air, like you're also now playing with Justin Fields. So like touchdown upside might go down, but the running game is going to be pretty sick, especially if they take a right tackle.
Yeah,
that offensive line is going to be really good.
They have a good interior line.
Yeah, I mean, I still like Breece Hall a lot. I think he's a
great player. He just got to put it together.
Yeah,
I just like all three of those backs right now. Okay, so then that's kind of the big four, I guess you could say, on this team. Then you have Rachaad White, Tank Bigsby, Jalen Wright, all as kind of those depth guys, which are good quality depth guys for the most part. So I think there's a really good reason to consider this the second team. Third team is going to be the Lionheads just to the right of them. I think you could argue the Lionheads is the number 2 team as well.
Sure.
Bijan and Jonathan Taylor is as good of a 1-2 as you can really get. I love both of those players. David Montgomery obviously got hurt towards the end of last year, but I think he's going to come back just fine and get right back into his role.
I mean, the biggest, like, and I went back and forth on like who was 2 and who was 3 on this one actually for a little bit. But to me, like, if I'm looking at those 4 blue guys, I'm picking Gibbs first, and then just a little more depth is what ended up swaying me.
Sure, I could see that. I actually think one of the guys who's not really highlighted on the Lionheads list that I think is a very sneaky. One of the better handcuffs in the league is Ray Davis. I mean, if you get one James Cook injury, you got a bona fide rock solid starter.
We'll get to my team in a minute, but
yeah, we can cross that bridge when we get there. But Isaiah Pacheco still, I still think there's hope for him. I don't think he's cooked or anything. I think the injury hurts, but
he's a tough eval because it's so hard to come back from a broken bone in the same year,
right?
So like. And he just didn't look good. It kind of felt like when Cam Akers came back in the same year from the Achilles in the playoffs.
Just too early. Just too early.
Yeah, I'm like, what are we doing here? And Pacheco needs to be like 100%. Like,
I mean, the way he runs, he's just a punisher. And like when you're not at 100% as a punisher, I just don't think it's going to work well. Yeah. I think the Chiefs are a team that absolutely could take a running back though. Really make this a tough one.
It's a weird one because they bring back Kareem Hunt and they traded for Elijah Mitchell. So like, it wouldn't surprise me if they didn't, but it's not like you don't look at that running back room and you're like, hell yeah.
I think just the depth of the class is going to be, so strong that, it's going to be round 4. And it's very possible where like the highest player on their board is like a Devin Neal or like one of those kind of backs.
They're going to be a 6th or 7th round running back that just gets like this hype piece, like peak
happens every year.
Draft season. It
happens every year. Deneric Prince,
Isaiah
Darwin Thompson.
There was what's the guy that
Carson
came
Steele
overseas? It's like Zemet, or was it?
Oh, geez, you're digging real
Reese
deep.
Zemet, something like that.
Louis Zemet. Yeah, I don't know what the hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been a lot. Carson Steele even got hyped last year as an undrafted guy.
I don't know why.
I mean,
Okay.
well, he can bang some bodies in the middle there. Yeah, he's a little guy. I like him. Anywho, yeah, there's a lot of competition to say the least at this point for the Chiefs. So I think it's going to be an interesting road for Pacheco at this point. Let's go to the number 4 spot. We got
That'd be
your
me.
squad here. Kyron Williams and James Cook as the blue chippers. Let's talk about James Cook because we kind of alluded to it here.
Is he gonna play?
If he plays, yes, then we're good.
If he
If he
plays
doesn't
blue,
play,
doesn't
we got a
play,
problem.
not blue.
Not good. I mean,
Not
dude,
good.
great season last year though. I mean, what do you have? 15
Yeah, I mean, here in the
touchdowns.
blue, I think he was probably the first guy, like the last guy in to that blue category for me. If I'm looking at everybody there,
I was kind of about to allude. Like, is
he
he?
could be green. That's
He
why,
could be a high, like a dark green, perhaps.
I think I feel pretty comfortable saying I'm a tier down from those last two that we talked about. But like, I still
Yeah.
like my running back room a lot. I like a lot about it. But yeah, definitely a tier down. We don't have that sexy running back at the top. Kyron Williams not described as sexy very often, so
I mean, he just gets the job done.
he
He's
gets it
just
done.
now. Are you concerned at all heading into the draft with Chase Brown?
No,
Do you think that they would draft?
I
Well, I
think
think they very well
I
could
think it'd
draft
be.
back, but do you think he'll be threatened?
I mean, it'd be terrible team building first of all to draft a running back when you have so many other needs. But I don't think so. Anytime their coaching staff or general managers come out and they've named like their core pieces, he's been a part of it. And
I've heard a
any
lot of puff pieces on him from coaching staff and whatnot.
so like I feel pretty good about him going into next year. Honestly, like he finished the year like as an RB1. So like
He was great at the end of the
I
year.
could have really puffed my chest and put him blue and just said fuck off everybody, but I was trying to be reasonable.
No, it's
So,
very. I think he's a green. I think he's a green until, I'd like to see him do it one more time. We'll put it that way. One more time would
sure,
be
yeah,
if he kills it
it's
again, then
very
sure.
Kyron Williams esque.
Yeah, I think a lot of people felt the same way about him last year. So, all right, let's keep motoring through. We got a lot more to get through here. So we got the Bombers at number 5,
Big
which
drop off here.
yeah, I was gonna say that seems like quite an interesting ranking because nobody really thought about the Bombers last year, even close to this ranking. So obviously Joe Mixon goes to Houston, has an excellent season, especially when he played.
Another year older now, so I'm a little
Another year older.
new offense. We'll see what happens. I've never been a huge Joe Mixon fan, but he was great last year.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're also a team that would be in the market for a backup running back in the draft. Maybe some competition, but I feel great about Mixon heading into the season. Kenny Walker, KW3, dude, he's great when he plays. Will he play?
This is probably, if we're talking about like trying not to do huge projections, this is probably my biggest one of anybody on these lists. But the Kubiak system for him, I just feel like it's going to be a really natural fit, and I think he's gonna be really good next year.
You know what's funny? I feel like Kenny Walker has been in the league for 15 years. He's only 24.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me. So yeah, he's well within. I mean, of course, with Charbonnet, I think Charbonnet might be the same age as him, which is kind of like wild.
Very possible.
But yeah, like I like Kenny Walker. I just really hope that he can stay healthy, man. Like he's just one of those guys that everybody knows he's good. It's just a matter of like let's put it together.
It's always nice to have a high end. It's hard to call Charbonnet a handcuff. He's not really a handcuff, but like if one of those guys goes down, like they're both in that like. There's not like a production drop off. It doesn't feel like so.
No, they're RB2s at basically the least. So let's see. So but then we have Kendre Miller, Travis Etienne, Zach Charbonnet, as we mentioned. Not a lot of great depth here. I mean, Etienne still has a chance to bounce back. So I'll cut him a break there. Kendre, we still haven't seen him do anything basically. That's another team that very well could take a running back at some point in this draft, just because a lot of cut candidates here. This is a team that's got to be thinking about running back in the draft, I imagine. Seeing it's such a good deep running back class, and he's got to pick in the first. Like you got to imagine that's probably where we're looking, because the rest of the team is pretty well constructed at this point. So I like the team construction. We just need to add a little bit more talent here at running back. Let's go to number 6, which is going to be yours truly, the Armadillos. It feels weird to even
tough.
hear. Yeah, that's
So fucking hard to evaluate your running back room.
you joined the. I've been trying to deal with this for the last 4 years. It feels like
I
it's
I
not ideal.
I
It's not
I'm
bad.
really starting to feel like they're a day 2 running back in San Francisco in the draft.
They're drafting one. I
I
don't know where, but they're drafting one.
Whether it's Caleb Johnson, that makes a lot of
God,
sense
what a
for the
great
offense.
scheme fit. That
That
would
would be
hurt my
insane.
soul.
Yeah, that would be so good though.
It would be a great scheme fit.
Just crazy athlete on the on-field metrics, not a great combine, which
No,
we'll see. But
he's just a great zone runner, man.
I'm pretty confident he hit 22 miles per hour a couple times in college or a few times. So
I think he's
concerns.
number 1 or number 2 zone runner in the class outside of Genty. Like he's that good. McCaffrey's going to be in. I don't think he's going to be an elite back. I don't, whether it be injury or whatever. Like he's just going to be. He's not going to get to that what he used to be. I'm accepting that at this point, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm. That's why like somebody like a Caleb Johnson coming in who's doesn't have a great receiving profile feels like a good compliment to McCaffrey, who can maybe end up with like 20 touches per game instead of like
and
30.
like at this point I don't want him to touch the ball 30 times a game. Like let's just not do this. He's so efficient when he has the ball, so let's just keep him healthy and try to keep this train rolling. Achane also on my squad still. I think Achane really, I don't see a whole lot changing. I feel like maybe they could add another back, but I don't see them doing that.
Apologies to the Dolphins fans, but that team feels like it's gonna be like potentially a team from hell or a year from hell team coming up this year. You got the whole Tyreek thing, which I don't know. We'll see how that goes. I know he ended up getting like Wes Welker fired as the receivers coach or something like that last year. That went kind of underreported.
I didn't even know about that, I'll be honest with you.
Or something like that. Vince can chime in and tell him. I'm sure he knows what happened, but like there was some weird stuff that happened in that locker room last year.
I mean, they're a team that just really could swing one way or another.
They're a team that desperately needs to draft defense. Their defense is old and
they don't even have like a safety group at this point, do they? Like
no, and their defensive tackles are awful right now.
Hey, I like Zach Sealer.
Outside of Zach Sealer. Sealer's great. But
other than that, I couldn't name another player on the roster.
The edges are okay.
Chop Robinson is better than I thought. Yeah.
I'm assuming Chubb will be back, and then
I hope Jalen Phillips can be healthy because he's really good.
That's ideally you'd want to add another body, but they have so many other needs. Like they need safeties. They need another corner.
Yeah, they have work line. To do. They really need line because the whole point of this team is literally to keep two upright. So
I mean, very similar to what the Chiefs did. Like they signed James Daniel, who is coming off a major injury. Like he was good when he played last year, but it's a guard. It's one guard when you have restructured your left tackle and you don't even know if he's playing football next year, and your right tackle is okay at best. They need a tackle pretty badly too.
They need a lot, and I would consider them to be a very volatile team at this point. So to me, with all those needs, it would be kind of dumb to take a running back high, especially after you drafted Wright last year.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think they're in the market for a running back. I just think that offense is gonna. I think public perception, what's actually gonna happen, feels like it's gonna be far off from where I see it.
So the rest of the running back room here, we have some higher upside guys with Braylon Allen, Audric Estime, depending on how that running back situation shakes out. And then Jaylen Warren, as of right now, is the de facto starter, which I imagine they're going to add somebody. It seems like Pittsburgh is the prime, Cam Scatabo team, somewhere in the middle rounds.
James Conner 2.0. There you go.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. So, right now Warren I think he's going to at least be, just one of those fill-in guys at the very least, but, could end up with more carries. But this is clearly a team need.
Committee back for sure.
Yeah, I mean, my team needs running backs. I would at least have one or two more, but it's just going to depend on how the board falls and whatnot. So Let's keep moving to number 7. The Muskrats running back room, which frankly I'm not super excited about. I did have a qualm with this as I passed by it. Would you put Chuba Hubbard in the green maybe?
I should have.
I think he
Honestly,
deserves a green.
you could swap him and Najee, and I wouldn't have. But it's because I'm assuming they're going to draft a running back at some point. But yeah, I do. The only problem is they signed Rico, who's also on this team. So like,
yeah, he's around. Yeah,
that could just be a committee, and it wouldn't surprise me. Rico was pretty good last year.
I mean, they did pay Chuba a lot of money, so
True.
like to me, like that tells me you want him, and he was good. Like objectively, as much shit as we talked about Chuba Hubbard on this podcast and in the league, he was objectively good last year. So there's a real chance that he's just like the guy again, and he's gonna be an RB2 at the least. So I think with that, and then Stevenson. I think he'll face some competition as well through the draft.
They're drafting a running back for sure.
So like, I think they will get some sort of speedier back. I would imagine maybe like a Jarquez Hunter or like a Brashard Smith or something like that. It would be a good compliment. So I think there would be more competition there, but he's still going to touch the ball. So this isn't like an awful running back room, but it's lacking in high end talent.
There are worse ones coming up.
Let's get to them. So number 8, we have the Plague, which is just not good, Sean.
I couldn't believe this team made 8. It's fucking awful.
Yeah, I'm actually questioning that myself at this point, but then I realized what 2 teams are after them.
Guess what? You got enough bodies to field a team. You're good. You're 8.
I mean, you know who makes me sad? It's Nick Chubb. I want Nick Chubb to be somewhere where he plays well.
He needs to go to a contender. Just
give him the Derrick Henry treatment.
Yeah.
Just put him somewhere where he's going to touch the ball, please.
Where can we send Nick Chubb where he's got a chance to win?
Pittsburgh? Well, not win, but like but like at least be like involved in some meaningful way. That we've really lowered the bar here from winning a championship to being involved in some sort of meaningful way. I just love Nick Chubb. Let the man run the ball. He's so good. Let the boy sleep in your bed. He's a clean boy.
Send him to I don't know, the Commanders.
I mean, sure. I mean, like fantasy-wise, that would be horrific. So
yeah, well, I don't care. I care about Nick Chubb. I want him to go to a place that he has a chance to win.
Well, I want a little Baltimore.
Him and Derrick Henry backfield.
Just
no receiving.
Let's do a 3. Let's do a 2-backs shotgun formation. Nick Chubb on one side, Derrick Henry on the other side. Put Lamar in the middle, and then maybe throw in a little Keaton Mitchell and just have the ultimate backfield.
2019 me is shitting his pants looking at that. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, I wish Nick Chubb was like not in the situation he is, but he could just go back to the Browns. I mean,
they could use a running back.
I mean, they kind of make sense from a fantasy standpoint for him just to go back, but anywho, let's keep moving on this list. So we got Kareem Hunt, we talked a little bit about that earlier. I think he'll be involved in some way. J.K. Dobbins still a free agent, I believe, at this point. A.J. Dillon signed somewhere, didn't he?
Philly.
All right, so forget A.J. Dillon. Ty Chandler signed. I think he's back with Minnesota, and they brought in some talent there. Not feeling that too much anymore. Sincere McCormick, great name, not fantasy relevant.
Will be on the team most likely.
I think like if I had an extra free roster spot to just roster just a player, I would probably consider him just for the name value. Antonio Gibson basically is non-existent at this point. I just don't see a whole lot else here that's exciting, Sean.
All right, currently Jerome Ford is a starting running back. Singletary will get carries. I mean, it's just a bunch of guys that'll be on the field.
I need to take a peek at Dan's draft capital. I know he doesn't have a first.
I don't think he has any picks.
Does he have anything? He's got 5, 6, 7, obviously, but how are we going to supplement this roster with running? It needs it so bad.
How do we reach these kids?
How do I reach these kids? I don't know. This is not good. This is not good, Sean. I mean, we were talking. This is the same discussion we were having last offseason with this team.
Oh, he's got 308.
All right. Which, frankly, could be a running back this year. I mean, there's so many freaking running backs this year.
20 draftable running backs. So.
All right. So you're saying there's a chance. All right. Let's go to 9. 9's going to be the Lambs with Austin Eckler, Jordan Mason, Kenny Gainwell, Isaiah Davis, Isaac Guerrero, and Sean Tucker. There's guys I like on this list, Sean. They're just not playing.
They're not playing.
They're not playing, so that's a problem. Like Sean Tucker, I think could at least be an RB2 on another team. Garendo, it will probably get some run if McCaffrey inevitably gets hurt again. Isaiah Davis, we just talked about him. So it's just like, let's see what happens. I actually think Jordan Mason's a little sneaky, kind of getting into that Minnesota backfield. Like could, actually be the power back they kind of missed last year.
Those 6 to 7 games that Aaron Jones misses are going to be electric.
Yeah, I think it's going to be at least a playable asset. And then, of course, he's probably going to flood the position with the draft this year, I imagine, in some capacity. So should be interesting for that team. And then we have the Elk rounding out the top or rounding out the number 10 spot here with Tyjae Spears, Blake Corum, Roschon Johnson, Marshawn Lloyd, and Keaton Mitchell. So it's not good, Sean.
It's tough out here.
It's not good. I actually like Keaton Mitchell to some extent. Like I think there's a real chance where he's like, I mean, dude, he was electric when he was healthy. So if there's a chance he can get back.
Him and HM were both averaging like 8 yards a carry like 2 years ago at the same time, and then Keaton Mitchell blew out his ACL.
I loved Keaton Mitchell coming out of school, and I think I even took him in the waiver draft that year. But I just thought there was a real shot that, like, from a smash and dash perspective with Derrick Henry, he could be a real. I mean, if you put all three of them on the same backfield, like at the same time, to do like what the hell you do? Like, there's so much to defend. I think that would be a real asset for Todd Monken, who frankly should be a head coach at this point. I still don't know how.
Right.
I don't know how he's not a head coach.
I honestly wouldn't touch that running back room. I love everything about that room with Mitchell, Henry, and Justice Hill is like your
It's just a good team.
It's so like well rounded as a.
It's the only thing I can see you doing is like literally just what I call the trailer running back, like a Nick Chubb. You just put him on the trailer, carry him to the championship, and just like let's see what happens. Just give him a veteran. Like it's the DeAndre Hopkins. It's every year they get these like veterans that really don't contribute a whole lot, but let's see if we can get him a chip. All right, so that's the running backs. We got the receivers to get through as well here. Do you think, Sean, do we split this up into 2 shows? What do you think?
Up to you.
Let's get to the power rankings because I think that's what people really are here for. So
sure.
let's come back to the rankings for receivers and tight ends, and let's move forward to the much anticipated. I'm gonna have to adjust this stupid our faces. How much for the guy in the circle? Sir, that's you.
Embarrassing.
That's embarrassing. Okay, how do I do it now? Is the question, Sean? That's what this is the problem. These are the questions, Meg. That's on the bottom, and then we're gonna make us real small. Oh yeah, look at that. All right, so we're good. All right, so Sean, I'm just gonna give you the floor here because there's a lot to digest.
Is this where I go?
This is where you go.
Oh, okay. You want me to talk about like you want me to talk about like the weighted.
Yeah, I would say so. Let's start with the weighted rank, right? Like that's really the true rankings here, right?
Yeah, I mean, not every position is worth the same as the other one. Like it's what it is. Like if you have an elite quarterback show up the most, whoever's having the best year is going to show up the most on the most championship teams every year in fantasy. So they're the most valuable players, our elite quarterbacks, especially in our league where we have 6-point touchdown passes. So if you don't have one, you're not going to win. So they're worth the most.
That would be an interesting case study. So let's think about the last like 4 to 5 championships and what the quarterbacks have been on those teams. So you had Lamar 2 years, obviously, and then going back further, if you go to Scavelli's teams, trying to think of who Scavelli's quarterback was that year. I'm blanking. Was it? This was kind of a weird one. Wasn't it like Russell the Wonder Muscle?
I don't know. History started 2 years ago when I started winning. So
all right now. Hold on a second. The Buffalo Blowouts would have something to say about that. But that's a bit advantageous there. All right, let's see here. So anywho, so if we're weighting the quarterbacks that strongly, it would kind of aligns with what you're seeing here in the rankings. So Sean, let's start maybe from the bottom, and then let's go through your power rankings here. So we got the Lambs. I don't think anybody's going to
Hopefully nobody's fighting me on that one. I mean,
I don't think
it's a
so.
rebuild.
And
It's going
I guess
well.
we'll get to it on the wide receiver portions of the show, but
Yeah.
both the Lambs and the Elk aren't that bad at receiver.
No.
No, they're not that bad, which is a good place to be as a rebuilding team. I mean, James has, Brian Thomas and CD Lamb, which are both very good assets to have. You got
Frankly, if the Lambs had a little more depth at the receiver position, they could be higher. They just don't have anybody else outside of the two guys. But anyway,
sure, yeah. I mean, I love those top two guys, and even like I've said it before, like the Elk, as dire as their running back situation is, this receiving room is pretty damn good. Like
yeah, it's a good
it's
amount of guys there.
definitely it's pretty solid. It's better than half the league according to these rankings. So I think the Lambs are just further away in their goals. They just have to kind of get a little bit more talent at the quarterback position, obviously more at the running back, and then tight end, which is the Lambs kind of the butt end of the joke now as the Lambs tight end group every year. So we'll see if that changes maybe this year in the draft. I mean, there's certainly a lot of options. So I think we'll see at least one Lambs tight end pick at some point in this draft. I don't know where, but there'll be one. Let's go to then 8, which would be the Muskrats, which I think is a pretty standard pick at this point. I feel like there's just like we looked at just a minute ago, there's only one blue chip talent on this team right now.
Yeah, it's a lot of missing high end talent and missing depth, and it's just I think
picks.
The Muskrats are going to steal a win or two in the non bye weeks, and then I think you just kind of run into trouble.
Yeah, I think there's he's going to win some games. He'll be in the mix, but I'm just with no picks, in the top 4 rounds. It's going to be hard to add anything to this team at this point, and I think you kind of just have to ride with what you got. The Lionheads being this slow is interesting. I obviously with the quarterback waiting, I think that would play a pretty big factor here.
I mean, there's another thing that's bringing that team down too.
Yeah, so I mean, we haven't got to that on the podcast, but I guess we should at least mention that they are the lowest ranked wide receiver team, and that's a tough one. It's a tough one, Sean, because I like the guys on the team, but I don't think they're. Frankly, we should just go back and talk about this team because they are the lowest ranked. We do have a couple, like I said, guys I like, but are they guys that are going to win you the league is the question. And I don't see that with Zay Flowers personally. I don't think he's a league winning receiver. Terry McLaurin, everybody loves Terry.
Everybody loves Terry.
Great season.
He's definitely one of those first guys out of that blue category for me. I can't. He had a huge touchdown year last year, and that's just such a hard thing to consistently put up.
I hear you on that. I mean, like, I think he's got a really good chance to, get close to those numbers. Maybe not the exact touchdown numbers that we saw. He's just such a solid player that I'm not going to talk bad about Terry McLaurin at all. That's basically where I'm at. But there are a few guys on this list that have kind of dropped in value over the last couple of years with Cooper Kupp, Christian Kirk. I still think there's hope for Kupp. But I don't think he's cooked.
I do.
Okay, so that's where we differ then.
Which is where it's bringing down. I don't think I don't think he would be in my top 40 receivers next year.
Interesting. Okay. Well, that is going to be a point of discussion in the offseason. I still think so. Vince does have his first round pick this year. He has draft picks. I do think there's a route to take a receiver to boost this squad. I feel like that's the likely choice if we're talking about team needs here in the first round of this rookie draft, to kind of look at the receivers. I feel like he's kind of in that sweet spot. I think he's at 7 or 8 or something like that.
I think that if you're looking for a receiver, I think there's going to be a good receiver there for him.
I believe, yeah.
With such a running back heavy class this year, I think the zag of needing a receiver isn't terrible in that spot. So
yeah, to me, you're going to end up with at one of the Ekbuga, McMillan, Burden, Golden, one of those guys, Hunter potentially, if that's the route you want to go. but like we were saying, there's a few of these guys that have dropped in value. The Cooper Cup, Christian Kirk could bounce back. Dontavian Wicks definitely took a hit last year.
He's gonna have all the opportunity in the world because
Yeah.
Watson's not. I think he's not due back until like mid-season at best. So
I think they're taking a receiver at some point in this draft. Like I don't know where or when, but like there's going to be more competition there.
Probably not first round because they don't do that. So.
They just don't do that. But I mean, frankly, they're in the position of the draft where they could have a faller kind of get to them, and it could make sense. But like you said, the track record isn't there.
Big fan of Higgins going in that spot, but
wow,
Jaden Higgins to the Packers
in the first.
No.
I was gonna say day 2, sure, but I'm not doing that in the first. But that's
no.
He's basically that Alan Lazardi type of guy, which is kind of what they need. So, and then Pop Douglas, I just like Pop Douglas. I just don't know if he's ever going to be like a great fantasy asset, but he could take a bump up with May improving next year. But like looking at, I mean, you can see it very clearly. If you really want to look at the blue chippers, I mean, McLaurin's close. Probably, but not quite there. There's just not the blue chip talent. So we'll see if that changes over the next, coming weeks, draft time. We'll see. Let's go back here to the power rankings. So clearly the receivers are what would be bringing down this team in this power ranking. Then we have the plague at basically the same ranking, so interchangeable with 5.75. What do you? Out of the two, who do you like better?
Probably the Lionheads.
Just the running backs.
Yeah, Dan. A lot of top heaviness on the roster, and that's always scary. If you get like an injury, you're kind of screwed.
I just think in our league, you got to have the backs. Like you just gotta.
Yeah.
I would weight the backs a little higher personally, but
That's
if
fair.
I'm looking at a contending team. I would rather.
I considered RBs being triple as well, and maybe I should have. I did this on the fly. Frankly,
no, I hear you.
There's no perfect system. Like I just went with this one today. So
I just wanted your power rankings. That was basically where we're at. So like if this is your true power rankings, then it's your true power rankings. So like any of these tiebreakers, I'm going to ask you. Then let's go up to the next one in the list. Then we got the Cheese Fries, who are a bit lower than expected, but really it's the quarterback situation. I mean, the tight end wise, he definitely could use a boost there as well. But from a running back and receiver, which is truly the meat and potatoes of this league, he's right up there with the best. So I think you could rank him higher as well, depending on how you weight the system. But I think if I had to say right now, I would like just my personal top 5. I would go Battle Axes, Long Gamers. God, the Bombers. This is what's that meme where it's like I just can't quit you or whatever. Like I just can't quit the Bombers. I personally would have the Lionheads over the Armadillos personally.
That's fair. Yeah.
I just feel like the running backs are just more ready-made for the postseason right now. So I think I'd put Battle Axes, Long Gamers, Lionheads, Bombers, Armadillos, and something like that in that order probably.
Your team is definitely like of all these teams, like the chaos of the group, where like you could go so many different ways.
Yeah, if we could just be healthy, that would be cool.
Like I know,
or not be suspended one of the other.
Yeah, Rice, McCaffrey, Ayuk. I think he's gonna be.
Has any player like more value wise? Like, dude, like his value could be anything. Like he's unsellable at this point because you just don't. You're not gonna get the value, and
I don't think he plays more than 10 games next year. I mean,
he tore his ACL, whatever LCLs, ZCLs, whatever you got.
Lynch said mid-year.
Yeah, he's not going to be. He's going to be on my IR to start the year, guaranteed. Yeah. So like, I'm not banking on him to play whatsoever for the first 8 games of the year, which is tough. But that also kind of factors in, like with Rashee Rice and Jordan Addison and some of these other guys. Like I think we got guys, but I need them all to be on the team at the same time. That's the problem. Like they can't just be trickling in at these random times, and that's where I feel like this draft is extremely important for the Armadillos in particular, because we got to get 1-2 right. Like this is an important. Like this player has to be a starter, no matter what. Otherwise, I don't think we have a chance. So we're just not. We have the depth, but we're not deep enough at running back to overcome some of these other teams. Like I don't feel good about playing the Lionheads if I made it to the playoffs and I played the Lionheads in the round 1. Like those running backs are strong. So and even the Bombers, for example, like with those receivers, like I'm not feeling great about that. So we're a fringe team at this point, I would call myself. Like I think we're right on the playoff bubble at this point. Any other teams we got to talk about here, Sean? I think I guess your team here at 2. It's hard to argue the 2-time champ. So I mean, I think you put until further notice, you're up there. What are you doing at tight end, Sean?
Not much.
You're just gonna sit around Dallas Goedert again.
I traded for Theo Johnson. I took some young upside.
Okay.
As like a chance. Like
all right.
I have limited resources, man. We want to do trade for fucking. I don't even know.
Well, you can't really trade anybody.
Trade me Dalton Kincaid. Like and take another flyer on a young tight end. He's not even that young. He's like 25.
Yeah, he's. I think he was drafted at 23 or 4. So yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good year. Hey, it's a good year to have a tight end need, frankly, in the draft. Like there's going to be a guy probably that you can add to the roster.
I mean, Elijah Arroyo with my third.
I was going to say you're not a Harold Fannin guy though, apparently. So
if there's value to be had, I'll take it. Shit.
I'm giving you shit. All right. Okay, we'll come back to this. I think there's just showing the screen is going to get people riled up enough, I think. So that's
good. It's been too quiet. It's been too quiet.
I know we got to get some memes fired up here. I think I'm gonna have to throw a couple memes for the draft here. Get some.
Vince is probably working on one right now as he watches this.
I could see that for sure. All right, so we will come back likely next week. We'll do the receivers more in depth because I think that's kind of what that's everybody's kind of meat and potatoes type position. So we'll talk about that in more depth, and that'll take a while because there's more players. We'll do the tight ends as well. Maybe we can do. We'll try to do another rookie mock here before the draft. Do more content now that we're getting really close to the draft. But next week for sure is going to be Charlie Campbell. The plan is to have it's going to be me and the Battle Axes GM Andrew Scavelli joining me on that podcast. And then we'll follow it up with some more PHU Dynasty content. So now that we've had some more time as well, between now and the next Charlie podcast, if you do have questions, get them in. We're going to try to get in as many as we can. We have a lot already, but we'll kind of pick and see if we can get as many we can in. And I also encourage you, if you haven't seen it yet, Charlie ended up doing the podcast yesterday with Walt on his site. They did a first round mock, but they did answer a ton of questions from their viewers in the chats, like the comments and whatnot. A lot of those questions were questions that were submitted for our podcast. So I would say to, take the time and go listen to that while you're at work or whatever you're doing, because some of the questions, there's actually a lot of really good questions about betting odds and some interesting thoughts too on, where Charlie ranks the receivers and how he views a lot of the offensive linemen. It's an interesting podcast. So I was happy to tune into that today. So I encourage you to do the same, to maybe get some of your questions answered early there. Anywho, we will wrap this up for tonight, and we will see you next week with Charlie Campbell. Everybody have a great night, and thanks for tuning in.